Zach and Craig. We are back for another week of Thunder Things with the Thunder Guys. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live on YouTube or you're listening in on the Crossover Radio app. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to be here, excited to talk some more Thunder basketball. We're here every single week talking the last week of games, the week ahead, and any other Thunder news that might be coming up. We've got a few different topics we'd like to discuss. Got some good conversation going on Twitter right now. Feel free to give us a follow over there at the Thunder Guys. Jump in on that conversation. We are excited to talk about some different issues, some different topics.
Yeah.
So, how's your week been, man?
Pretty good. I'm pretty tired today, but I'm making it real quick, and this is more for the YouTube live. I just want to say that this is not a rat tail for someone who has asked. Just my long hair on top. So
Right on. It's always fun to have the video aspect of things, so feel free to jump in on YouTube. If you need the link, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Facebook. You can click in and join and talk in with the conversation. We got some chats going on in some different places on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to Crossover Radio on YouTube. Crossover Radio with a purpose. There's some great people doing some great stuff, giving us this opportunity. So we are going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look at the last week of Thunder basketball. It was not a great start.
It started off looking pretty rough.
The loss in Orlando, that was supposed to be kind of like what the Dallas game should have been. It should have been an easy win, yeah. But it wasn't at all. Orlando was on a long losing streak, and we were the lucky team to help them in that. As a team, we shot under 40%, 20 out of 30 from the free throw line. Free throw line struggles have kind of been an issue for us all season long. We allowed the Magic to shoot 59%. They shot 43% from three. Those are not good stats for a team that is as defensive minded as the Thunder has been so far this season. Those are some really terrible stats.
Yeah, this game, it almost felt like the Thunder knew they needed a win in a bad way, and they kind of just came out expecting to get, like we were talking about, like an easy win. However, that wasn't the case, and poor Russ did everything he could to get stuff going, especially in the fourth quarter. This is one I was watching from work. I did the best I could to cover it that night, but
I was actually at church, so I missed most of it.
Yeah,
I saw some highlights and looked over the play-by-play. So.
Right. In my opinion, it was the most Russ has looked like himself from last season, as far as 5 for 5 from the three in the fourth quarter. That's just stuff that we were used to him doing on a regular basis. However, when you're down by 20 points with only a couple minutes left in the game, it was all for nothing. So it was kind of exciting to see him get going. But
he had some decent numbers: 37 points, shot pretty decent from the field, 47.8%. Finished 7 of 10 from three.
Yeah, so
that's
nice.
The
big. You're right.
That's not going to happen very often. 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals. That's good to see. And we can actually talk about this here in a little bit, but I feel like his steal numbers are deceptive concerning his defensive efforts.
Right.
So
and like you were saying earlier with the defense, I think that's what you have to put the blame on in this game, which is quite the opposite of what we're used to. Because you look at, Paul George, 22 points, 41% from the field. That's not great, but it's also not terrible.
Right.
Melo, what is he? 31%, 5 of 16.
Yeah.
But, that's just been the Melo we've been seeing. Still came up with 16 points.
Right.
I feel like anytime the Thunder are putting up 108 points in a game, I feel like I've been saying this a whole bunch on our podcast lately, but that should be enough to get the job done.
For this team with the defensive capability that we have, it should be. Obviously, that wasn't the case that night, so that was disappointing. But and I'll go ahead and jump in with this. Andre Robertson, he had a pretty solid game by his standards, and really for anybody on the team. 11 points on 5 of 8 shooting. He had 9 rebounds. He was the only player on the team with a positive plus-minus. He had a +1, which obviously isn't much. He played 30 minutes in the game, so I saw slightly above average for him. Decent minutes for him, but once again, it's all for naught. When you're getting blown out, it's real disappointing to see those kinds of efforts from a guy that has really struggled at times this season, offensively specifically. To see him have a good game like that, and then it doesn't really.
I'll say this as someone who often criticizes Andre Robertson. He did a good job at constantly moving. I don't want to say that he was just in the right spot at the right time, because you have to know what you're doing to get there. But he was picking up rebounds off the glass. He was getting easy cuts to the basket, and that's what he needs to do.
That's exactly what he needs to do.
I have no problem with him taking 8 shots in a game like he did, even 10 if they're going to be all within the paint right there. And backdoor cuts, whether it's an alley-oop or a dish from Russ inside.
And when the ball's moving, guys are constantly moving, and I hate to even allude to the Golden State Warriors because I don't really like talking about them if I don't have to. But one thing they do so well is everybody is constantly moving on the court.
Right.
They're setting screens and back screens and double, triple, double screens. Like, I'm making stuff up over here, but you get my point.
Right.
They're always doing things, and that sets up someone is going to get open.
Right.
Because everybody's, I don't know how they're not more tired because they're always moving, whereas we see so much of, even when we're not doing the ISO thing, even if we're looking to pass, guys stand around a lot. And honestly, I feel like Russell Westbrook is one of the worst offenders in that case. If the ball's not in his hands, he tends to kind of stand around a little bit.
And that may be because he can get away with it a little more because of how quickly he can move with the ball. So he doesn't need quite the space that other players need. But yes, I see what you're saying there. One more thing I'll say about Andre Robertson, and specifically in this game, and I've noticed it for the entire season, probably his entire career, is that I feel like he is, as far as fundamentals go, he's very solid. And like some of the points that he had came off, like I said, they were rebounds off the glass, and he put them back in for an easy basket, but that's because he's following the shooter.
Right.
You're taught that from elementary all the way up, that follow the shooter.
Shot.
Even on a wide open fast break, and I think that actually happened. Russ missed a layup, and Andre was right there to put it back in. Had that not happened, that's a blown opportunity. So like I said, just wanted to somewhat for you, but
some positive.
Give it something a little positive about Andre.
I think that's good, though. I feel like he's had a couple of those games where he's kind of gotten some things rolling. And once again, he's not a guy that's going to put up any kind of 20, 30-point game, probably ever.
Right.
Like, that would be if he breaks 20 points, we're talking, like, I don't know, major celebration. But if he can average around, I mean, if he's getting just anywhere from 8 to 12 points a game, and consistent, and on low shot numbers, that's the key, then I feel like he's in a good place there. Yeah. Like we said, cutting to the basket, that's his bread and butter. He needs to do that. And the thing is, I feel like his teammates are looking for him in those situations. So as long as they can continue to do that, I mean, he should be able to put up some points.
Agreed. Last thing on Orlando is I feel like Steven Adams was a little bit of a liability. Three of 10 for 6 points is...
we can't win with that.
But it's hard to look back on that when you look at the way he played for the 2 following games. So let's move on to Minnesota.
We went to that game.
We were at that game.
We were there. Yeah. It was only the second game we've been able to go to this season. It was pretty exciting. The Thunder led from the get-go the entire time. But we were up by as many as 21 points with 6 minutes to go in the second quarter, and then things kind of started to go the direction that they've gone over and over and over again.
Especially with the 42 points at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, when we score 42, I mean, we've had halves where we've scored less than that.
Yeah,
and it's been ugly. When we score 42 points in the first quarter, the home crowd is rocking. Our offense looked unstoppable. And then we came out the rest of the game. I don't think any quarter we scored more than like 22, 24 or something like that. Timberwolves cut it to 10 by the half. And then they kept digging into the lead, and they never did retake the lead. They never even tied it up at that point.
Yeah, it made it interesting, though. Definitely,
for sure. It went from we were kind of chilling, relaxing, enjoying it to on the edge of our seats and then standing and getting a little bit nervous. Like
super nervous.
Kind of like we've been here before. We've seen this episode of Thunder Basketball. We'd rather not do that again.
It was a much-needed win for, I think, the organization in general. After that Orlando loss, everyone was ready to burn it down, including myself.
So many people were just distraught. Social media was just... it was bad.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, the emotional swing there of... you score 42 points in the first quarter, you're up by 21 points, and you're thinking, okay, we're getting back on this thing, and then you're like, oh no, here we go again. The 2 biggest stats to me in this game, offensively at least, were Steven Adams is an obvious one, perfect from the field, 11-11, perfect from the free throw line as well. I'm trying to read this. This is your notes.
Yeah,
so
he was only
from you.
I went and looked this up. I saw somebody say something about it on social media, and I actually went and looked it up on basketballreference.com myself. He's only the second player, as long as they've been recording these stats, I think it's since like 1963, 64. He's only the second player to ever shoot at least 11 shots from the field and 5 free throws without missing a single shot. Chris Mullin did it in 1990, and no other player has ever. I mean, that's a solid stat.
Yeah. But it's a great bounce back from the loss against Orlando, where he shot 3 of 10 to go perfect from the field. And then Melo, and this is something that transitions into the game against San Antonio as well, but he only took 7 shots.
Right.
And honestly, that might be perfect. Like, I think...
I feel like it's a little low.
There's going to be nights where you're going to want to see him take 15 to 20 shots, but then there's other nights where less is more in a sense.
And when you look at Paul George, the numbers that he had, 36 points, he did that on 21 shots. He was 5 of 9 from 3. I mean, and on top of that, he had 9 assists. That's, honest to goodness, maybe his best game since he's been in Oklahoma City.
You kind of never felt like he was going to miss. I remember being at the game, and every time he put the ball up, people were standing up, throwing their hands up already. So that's great, and that's what we kind of talked about last week, is when one guy gets going, I think the other two kind of need to let him do their thing a little bit. Russ still took 21 shots.
He struggled. 6 of 21, not a good look. He did have 14 assists. I think the key there...
0 of 8 from...
0 of 8 from 3.
Especially when Paul George was shooting the way he was from beyond the arc. I mean, it's just, you don't need it.
That is what you call a fall back to earth.
Right.
Okay, he goes 7 for 10 in Orlando, 0 for 8.
Yeah.
The very next game, combines for 7 of 18. That's actually slightly above probably what his percentage is for 3.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. And I think for him, he needs to recognize, if you've missed 3 or 4, like, cool the Jets, man.
Right.
Like, Paul George is doing his thing over here. There's no reason that PG is shooting 5 of 9 and Russ should still be shooting 8 threes if he's not going to make one.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, I think we also mentioned this before. It's easy for us to sit back and say that.
Right.
But when you got a guy as confident as Russell Westbrook, I mean, I don't think he ever thinks he's going to miss a shot no matter what the situation is around him. So I also get that competitive aspect. Anything else on Minnesota?
We talked about Melo, he kind of deferring, and that's kind of what we've seen him. He did this again against San Antonio, and we'll get into that game. The biggest thing for me in this game was we got a win in the clutch, and that was so key for us. It was kind of like that was a hill we needed to get over, was getting a win in the clutch. After being so good last season, Russell Westbrook led the league in so many different statistical categories in the clutch, and to see where we're at, we talked about this last week on our show with point differential and versus our record. We were so good in the first half, but the second half has just really been a letdown, and it was like we were finally able to finish a game.
Right.
Once again, it wasn't as pretty as the first half. It wasn't as pretty as being up by 21 midway through the second quarter, but we finished.
Yeah.
We got
you
the
saw
win.
the execution there.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I think I remember hearing something that the Thunder hadn't won a game this season when it's decided within 5 points. Is that true?
I think we had one. I'm not sure. Our clutch record coming into that game was 1-9.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure if we had won the close, like if it ended up being that close, or if it was just close at one point and then we kind of pulled away, or what.
But regardless, you got 2 in a row.
Right.
Bouncing back against San Antonio.
This was not a pretty win.
Wasn't, especially with the injuries that San Antonio had. But at this point, I'll take a win. No matter the situation.
Way, doesn't matter what color it is, what it looks like, or that's fine. We will take a win. But yeah, they were without Tony Parker. He's still coming back from his injury, so he was on some mandatory rest. LaMarcus Aldridge, I can't remember what his deal was, but he was resting for a minor injury. Rudy Gay was out. Manu Ginobili was active, but he didn't play. And then Kawhi Leonard, he's obviously been out all season. He's actually expected to return soon. But a lot of people kept referring to this as the Spurs G League team or the B squad. And here's my thing. I don't like that talk. These guys are professional basketball players. I don't care where they rank on your scale of talent. They've got Greg freaking Popovich as their coach. The guy knows what he's doing. Okay? I joked on Twitter that I swear he lives at the local YMCA.
Right,
he goes
just
down
pick
there.
Up anybody.
He's like, yeah, okay. I saw you shoot the ball one time. Let's go. Come on. And then he just kind of give me 2 practices, and then he puts together a solid squad. And another thing, I kind of feel like teams get up to play us. I don't know, especially in Oklahoma City. I just feel like that was the case. So there was a lot of people down on the game, but we got the win, so that was good.
I to be honest didn't get to watch a lot of this game. I was very busy at work that night. Not so much for the game though. And when you made the G League comment, it reminded me we weren't super busy, and so I kind of felt the crowd might be a little less that night. And I made a comment. People were like, "Why aren't you guys busy?" I said, "Nobody wants to see the G League play." Right. You know, like it's if San Antonio had their stars out there, it might have been a little different as far as the crowd goes. Based off of stats though, I think what got the job done was the I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but so many different guys got involved with Dre getting 8 again, Felton getting 8, Jeremy Grant 9. But the thing is, they didn't take too many shots. They just shot extremely well.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's huge, especially when you look at Paul George was 2 of 17 on the night.
Yeah, it's bad to see him come off one of probably his best game as a member of the Thunder and then go and do what he did in San Antonio.
Right.
2 of 17. That's he had a pretty terrible game the other night where he was shot in, it was like 8 or 9% from the field. Good. And it's weird because he started off the season kind of mediocre, not even mediocre, average for him, I guess. Nothing breakout. Thunder fans were not impressed by what we wanted to see from him.
Right.
Then he's had these breakout games. He had that Minnesota moment, and it was like, yes. And then you see against the Spurs, a team where really, I mean, he should be able to take great advantage of this, and it's a letdown. But, I mean, everybody else kind of showed up.
Right. And then Melo, again, only taking 10 shots. So he took 17 shots in the last 2 games combined, and we won both of those games.
Right.
That's not always going to be the case, like I said earlier.
I agree.
But and he was asked about it post-game. Did you see this interview?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I actually got it.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in our next segment.
Okay, all right. Well, are we ready to go to the break then?
We're getting there. Let's finish a couple more things I want to talk about on the Spurs game, and then we can then we do need to take a break for our sponsors. But this was another game where we led from the get-go. We led all the way into the fourth quarter. A minute and a half in, San Antonio takes the lead. We went back and forth for a couple of possessions, and then we got back on top and kind of extended it back out to about 8 points, and then it got really close. We did not score in the final 3.5 minutes of the game.
Right.
That's not good.
No.
And then neither team scored in the final 2 minutes. It was just ugly basketball all around, and the possessions were so bad. Russ got roasted on Twitter because of the last possession, which I didn't think was really fair. He got double-teamed. Nobody was coming to help him off of the inbounds pass, and he looked to throw it, and it wasn't a great pass. I think it was to Robertson, who did not get a good catch on it. Turned it over, and they had a chance. The Spurs had a possession to go to put up a shot to try to tie it, and thankfully it was a no-go.
I did see the very end of this one, and I sent you a text saying that we were going to blow it. Because it just, like you said...
It had that feeling.
Right, and we've been in that situation before, and you just kind of know how these things unfold for the Thunder this season.
Is it not weird, though, that last season, when we were in that moment, how many times where we were like, as long as we're within double digits when Russell Westbrook comes back in the fourth quarter, he's got this, we're good. And we never really felt nervous.
Right.
Like when games were close, there was still that nervousness, but at the same time, it was like, what have we got to lose? We weren't expected to win a lot of these things. Now it's the expectancy is there, but we're all nervous because what we've seen. Now we end up winning. That's 2 clutch wins in a row,
which kind of gives you some confidence and some hope for this team that they're starting to maybe figure things out.
Right. And once again, it wasn't pretty necessarily, and that's okay. A win is a win. We'll take it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break to our sponsors really quickly. When we get back, we want to talk about a little bit more detail on these last 2 games in terms of, are the Thunder starting to turn it around? What does this look like moving forward? And is this something that's sustainable? So thanks for listening. Crossover Radio with a Purpose. We'll be right back with some more Thunder Talk after a word from our sponsors. If you are watching live on YouTube, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Shoot us any questions that you might have, any Any thoughts, comments? Like I said, we've got some good conversation going on Twitter right now. Threw this question out there. Feel free to jump in with the conversation. But do the Thunder need to make a move? We're gonna get into some talk about that a little bit. We'll let you guys know what we think, as well as what some of our followers on Twitter think. I'm not sure about Craig. I've got some pretty pointed thought process on it about what I think we should do, and I don't know about you, man.
Yeah, I'm not really big into talking about moves, man.
Some people love and eat up the trade talk, the potential trade talk. That's not really my style. I guess that's not your style either. So, but we will get into some of that talk, and we'll see what that looks like. So, just about another minute here. Our sponsors on the radio. For those of you who aren't aware, we do not have the capability to run our ads on YouTube, so that means you guys get to chat with us a little bit more. And like I said, we appreciate you guys just listening in, tuning in. We're excited to be here. Thunder up. What's up, Thunder fans? We are back talking Thunder basketball on Thunder Things with the Thunder Guys. I'm Zach, and this is Craig. We are the Thunder Guys. Thanks again for joining us. We're going to go ahead and jump right in, and our next topic of conversation, are the Thunder improving? And not just as a team, but as individuals, are guys getting better? Are we doing what we need to do to get better and get to a point where we can string together some wins? 2 clutch wins in a row, that's big. Like I mentioned just a few minutes before, coming into the game versus Minnesota, we were 1-9 in clutch situations. Terrible record, especially compared to last season when we were so good in the clutch. So those 2 clutch wins put us at 3-9. It's got to build a little bit of confidence. Even though they weren't pretty, Minnesota better than San Antonio. San Antonio was not a pretty win, but even though that wasn't the case, that's got to give you some confidence, some good feel for where we're going moving forward.
The Minnesota win, while it wasn't a pretty win, it was still a good win.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good team to beat, especially the 2 close games we've lost to them before. San Antonio, a little less impressive with the guys they had out. In my opinion, are the Thunder improving? Too soon to tell.
It's 2 games.
I think it's obviously something to kind of get excited about and maybe get your hopes up a little bit more, especially with the clutch factor in those games. But like I said, we could come out and see the team that we've been seeing over the 12 losses this year tonight. And so I think more so, and we'll get into this later on towards the end, but tonight will be a bigger factor in the direction this team is heading.
For sure. One thing we talked about, Melo over the last 2 games, taking fewer shots. You asked if I'd heard his interview, and he said that he's still adjusting, learning to play with the other guys. Specifically, one thing he said, I'm willing to make those sacrifices. I don't have to go out and score 20 or 30 every night. I'm okay with that, and he added this in, as long as we're winning. And that's what I want to hear.
That's what I want to hear, but it's what I want to see as well. Because I would not be surprised if he came out and jacked up 25 shots tonight. Right. You know what I mean?
Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, but if he makes 16 or 17 of those shots,
nobody's going to complain.
Exactly.
Obviously. And I think that's where we're all in agreement. As far as fans go, we just want to see the wins. We would like them to look nice. We would like everybody to be happy on the team and get their stats and it just be nice and compact. I mean, in a dream world, that would be the case. That's not the case here, though. We want wins. The guys, Russ, PG, Melo, they all say they want the win more than anything, but don't just say it, show it. And I mean, Melo, we got to give him some credit. These last 2 games, he's not said anything bad. He's not shown any type of anger. I saw a few people say Friday in Oklahoma City against Minnesota that he looked disinterested at times and he looked even frustrated. And I was like, I didn't get that vibe.
I didn't either.
Granted, we were in Loud City, so it's kind of hard to see. But at the same time, like I feel like just because a guy doesn't shoot the ball a lot, just because he's not as actively involved in the offense, doesn't mean that he's got a problem. He could just, that's his role for the game. And the fact that he was so positive after the win against San Antonio, and he's admitted like he's willing to make those sacrifices, to me that's at least encouraging.
It's something. I'll say this, going into the, maybe he was frustrated thing, he could have taken shots if he wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
It's not because he didn't get touches that he only took was it 7 that he took?
I believe so.
Yeah. It's not because he wasn't given the ball or given the opportunity. So that says a lot in my opinion,
right.
Is that he wasn't just excluded from the offense.
For sure.
But like I said, those are 2 big back-to-back wins as far as where this team wants to head and building up momentum and hopefully getting above 500 later on this.
I mean, we've
week.
got a good opportunity, and we're going to talk about our week ahead, the weekly forecasts, games coming up. We've got a good opportunity to do that. Another positive note that I saw was ball movement.
Mm-hmm.
Our passing numbers are going up. Right now, we're ranked dead last in the league with 261.5 passes per game. But over the last 2 games, it's been 282 we're averaging. Even in Orlando, which is kind of an outlier game because we lost a bunch of different guys saw minutes that wouldn't normally. If you include that game, it goes up to 286. So we're looking to improve. It's something. It's slow. It's steady, but it's something.
Right. It's what we talked about with listening to the coaching is that you're seeing that now. We're
right.
seeing changes happen, and that's a good thing. Whether even though it was the loss in Orlando, you're still making progress towards what you want to do. And so I hate to be the guy who tries to find positives in all the losses,
right.
but honestly, I mean, I feel like that's a big key in that is you're seeing them run an offense, and that's going to pay off, especially with getting guys in rhythm. Mm-hmm. And you start running an offense and get guys in rhythm, then the isolation actually works out. When you have we talked about this many weeks ago that Russ, Paul George, and Melo were all 3 in the top 10 in isolation scoring. But you can't just expect them to come out there, no movement, no
right.
rhythm, and start knocking down shots.
Those guys were all good in ISO because they were the only option,
exactly.
true option on their team.
Right.
You can't put them all on a team and be like, okay, everybody ISO. That doesn't even make sense.
Exactly.
There's 3 of them. They can't all ISO.
Right. But you run an offense and you get a guy hot, you find out who's hitting that night. And then maybe you not, I don't want to like fall to that for the rest of the
right.
game, but maybe certain sets you run isolation,
right,
try to get some points on the board. So running an offense has just got to be the biggest key for this team right now.
This interesting stat I came across concerning the passing. While we are dead last in passes per game, we are 5th in the assist to pass percent. Okay, I think it takes us a little over 8 passes to lead to an assist. Like that's pretty solid. The point is, the more we pass, the better chance we
exactly.
have at getting assists. And we're like bottom 10 in assists right now. We started off strong, looking good. We're better than we were last season, where Russell Westbrook averaged around 11-ish, I think it was. But as a team, we were only averaging like 16 or 17.
Right.
We're up to 21 right now. He's still one of the league leaders in assists, but with everybody that we've got, there's no reason that guys shouldn't be able to even. And one thing I'd like to see, we were really bragging on Steven Adams and his ability to score in the paint. One thing I would like to see for him is his passing ability to expand. Just because he gets it in the paint doesn't mean he has to go up. Granted, usually when he gets the ball in the paint, everybody's after him and slapping him because they get away with a lot of that, and I'm not going to fuss about the officials right now. But he is so good down there. That's one thing that Enes Kanter did for us last season. Whenever he'd catch it in the paint, he started to expand his game. We used to joke that if Kanter caught it in the paint, he was putting it up,
right?
Whether it was a good shot or not. But later in the season, he started to evolve a little bit, and he would find guys out. And we didn't have shooters last season. We've got some guys that can shoot this season. If Adams can find them and pass out of the paint and lead to some threes, why not? Let's try to expand on that. So, are the Thunder improving? I'm with you. I think it's too soon to tell. 2 games is not something to go throw a parade over.
Right.
I think I feel good. I'm liking where
a lot
we're
better.
at. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, are they improving? I mean, you see signs, you see positive notes like the passing and the running the offense. Right. But like I said, you want to see it for more than just
for
2 games.
We want to, and even then, that's still not enough.
Right.
We have to see drastic improvement in my mind leading up to Christmas. I feel like Christmas Day game against the Houston Rockets, that's kind of, I'm trying not to get ahead of ourselves. That's what I'm really looking forward to that game, because I want to see us be able to compete with Houston. I feel like we got 20 days. We've got, I'm not even sure how many games, somewhere in the realm of almost 10, I'm sure. I would like to see us ready to compete. I do not want to get blown out at home on Christmas Day. Don't let James Harden come in and play Grinch. Don't let him do it.
Yeah, that's my job.
We need to be ready. So moving on, I don't want to talk about this for very long because I don't feel like it necessarily deserves a lot of attention. This is just something that I saw. Some NBA observer said something along the lines of talking Russell Westbrook, and this isn't exactly a positive thing about Russ. So I'm going to read this quote. It says, "Nobody tells him when he needs to hear. Nobody calls him out for drifting on defense, which he does all the time, except against Steph Curry. He goes to sleep when he comes across half court and wakes up going the other way. Nobody has shown him what he must do to win a championship." Agree or disagree?
I disagree in the whole, I don't want to use the word vibe, but I am. The whole vibe of the context of this, in that this, to me, is an accurate statement 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Especially with the Russ falling asleep, or coming alive on the offense and stuff.
Right.
Has Russ given 100% effort on defense over this season, last year? Not at times, but to say that he goes to sleep. I mean, how many times have we seen him come up with steals, or following a shooter to the rim and coming up with a big block?
You're not going to be near the top of the league in steals just by chance.
Exactly. Now, and in my opinion, real quick, when you say something like this about a guy like Russell Westbrook, you're questioning his heart.
I agree.
And to me, that's a big issue, because I don't think there's anybody in the league who wants to win more than Russell Westbrook.
Right.
But the part I will agree with this is that I don't know that he always knows what it takes to win.
That's fair.
He wants to win, but perhaps taking the plays off on defense it leads to losses, and I don't think he understands the effect that it has on the game when he does those kind of things.
That's a really good assessment. I would have to agree with you there. I think it's absurd to say nobody has shown him what he must do to win a championship. The guy basically said that Scotty Brooks and Billy Donovan, they won't tell him when he takes, and I'm using better language, a bad shot. I don't think they're afraid of him, but I don't think you have to tell him.
I think he knows.
I don't think he ever saw a shot he didn't like.
Right.
But I think when he's released some of those, he knows, that wasn't a good shot. He may not admit it. He's kind of a proud guy, but he knows. He's not stupid. He knows the game of basketball. His basketball IQ is very high. He doesn't always play like it because his motor is going a little bit faster than most. But I don't think he's lacking heart. I don't think he's so concerned with stats that he doesn't care about the win. I'm with you. I think he wants to win above everything. Sometimes his play doesn't necessarily show that because he kind of loses his mind a little bit, but I think it'd be unfair to say that he's not worried about winning.
He just wants to come out and compete at a high level.
He does. So we got one question we're going to talk about before we cut to break again, and then we talk about our weekly forecast. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Stirred up a little bit of conversation on Twitter, and I'm actually going to read some of these responses that we've got. But the question is, do the Thunder need to make a move? Now,
no.
There was one that just says no, just capital letters. I can't find it now. That was basically what he said. The only reason that I asked this, I'm not oh no, we lost a game, we got to trade somebody. Some people are like that. And the other night, I was complaining about Alex Abrinas, which I've done a lot lately, and I feel like I have a right to, and not just because I'm a Thunder fan or because I cover him, and here's why. I loved. I'm not sure right now. I do. I love Alex Abrinas. Si Senor was one of my favorite things last season. Yeah. He was doing things as a rookie that have not been done for the Thunder since James Harden. I love the guy. And when he's on fire from three, it's amazing. I don't know what's going on with him right now. A lot of people are attributing his inability to be consistent due to he had some knee issues in the offseason, had a procedure done. And I can understand that to an extent, but it's been several months. Get yourself in shape and be ready to go.
Right.
Figure out what it is.
I could be specifically talking about Alex Arenas here. I could be a little off, but do you think he's a little bit starstruck in a sense with all the guys around him now?
It may be the case. I mean, last year, you're right. It was just Russell Westbrook. I hadn't even thought about that.
And because I'm thinking about, and at the time, because the start off the season, he came in with those guys and knocked down a 3, and you're like, okay, cool. Or, we're picking. I mean, that was within the first, 5-6 minutes of the game. And
after he had been injured and hadn't
really
played.
And so you're like, he's picking up right where he left off. But he did make a comment in preseason, and now it's starting to pop in my head even more. He said, when you've got Melo, Paul George, and Russ on the floor, no one's looking for Arenas. And so maybe that comment was more of like, oh my gosh, I'm really playing with all these superstars now. From a young guy, I'm thinking, if I'm 21, 22 years old and I'm coming in here and playing with all these superstars, guys that you maybe even looked up to when you were, younger. I don't know. Like I said, I could be completely off on that, but to me,
I think
it's
that's
something to consider.
Whatever it is, I feel like he needs to just figure it out. I'm not all for trading people. Now, another name that popped up was Patrick Patterson. You and I felt differently about the trade, at least from what I could tell. Everybody expected him to start coming in. The Melo trade happened like right before training camp, so obviously that shook things up. Not the case. He was dealing with a knee injury as well. And when he finally came in and started to play, he has not looked good at all. I feel like he's taken a lot of threes, which, I mean, he's not a bad three-point shooter career-wise, but he's not really done that. He's kind of looked even slow at times.
That's the word I was going to use.
And coming in, he was supposed to be this mobile big man that could play defense out on the perimeter and then even on the inside. He's not really done that. One thing that David Brandon, he's a guy on Twitter, he writes for 16 Wins a Ring, he had some decent analysis here. He said that maybe we need to get a big man who can rebound and body up guys when Adams is off the floor. And he thinks that Patterson might even get moved as a favor because he's barely getting minutes. And, I mean, that's true. Patterson is a guy that should be playing. I don't know if his fit is here.
Right.
I would like to see him get some minutes here because I think he could be that guy. But when you've got Jeremy Grant, who is kind of playing the same role, and he's coming into his prime, maybe not quite yet. He's still really young. But he's doing things so much better than Patterson, who's really not shown up. I don't know if he's got a place on this team.
Right. No, and I definitely agree with that. I feel like we're super thin on the inside outside of Adams.
Right.
So, yes, I think moving him would be would be great for this team. However, the reason I hate talking about this is because you just don't know who's available, who's out there, and without some sort of, I don't like throwing out names just because, and so
because that's how rumors get started. And all of a sudden, I've got a source that says that this guy's. And I saw another blog wrote something about how Kentavious Caldwell-Pope would be perfect for the Thunder, and I was just like,
I've seen that as well.
Where did that even come from?
Right, and how is that going to happen?
Somebody said they heard on the radio that the Thunder were looking at DeAndre Jordan. And I was like, why?
Right.
I mean, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but Steven Adams is playing, I feel like, better than DeAndre Jordan is right now. And he's just getting better, whereas DeAndre's kind of at his prime in his role, doing his thing. It didn't make any sense to me. So I don't know if that was just a rumor that was out there or what, but I definitely don't think if anything involves Steven Adams, where he's at right now, we do not need to be trading him. He looks like an all-star right now, does he not?
No, agreed. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He's the same kind of player as DeAndre Jordan, just obviously DeAndre Jordan's a little more athletic. But the last thing the Thunder need is one more big ego on this team, and I think that's an underrated point of Steven Adams is that he's just kind of there. You know what I mean? He's about whatever. He wants to win games, and he wants to have fun, and he wants to compete. And so I think that would be another issue is my final take on this whole should the Thunder make a move is we're already struggling enough with team chemistry.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do is finally start to catch our rhythm now that we're 20 games in then bring somebody in. Exactly. So that's kind of my take on did the Thunder need to make a move is that I could see it benefiting us, but I don't know any names. I don't want to throw out any names out there because as a general manager in the NBA, Sam Presti could pull off something that we would never have even considered. He's been known to do that. And then secondly is that you just don't want to throw off the team chemistry anymore.
I'm with you. A couple other people on Twitter said we're good where we're at. Some people said that we could use a two-way shooting guard. I agree. We've kind of needed that. We wanted Dre to do that, and like we said, he's been doing some decent offense. So I'm okay with that. I like where we're at. I don't like making a lot of moves. I like the roster where we're at. A lot of people think our bench isn't deep. I'd like to see what we can do with that. So we're going to cut to another commercial break. When we get back, we're going to take a look at the schedule ahead and get some thoughts on that. Specifically, talk Utah tonight. We tip off in a little over an hour, so we want to talk about big matchup with the Jazz. Thank you for joining us, Crossover Radio, Radio with a Purpose. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Thanks for following along with us. If you are on Twitter, feel free to jump in on the conversation. Still, a lot of good commentary. Thanks for joining in, everybody, discussing whether or not we need to make a move. I think we came to the conclusion that we're pretty solid where we're at, unless something presents itself. I don't know. I'm not the kind of guy. I'm not. My ear's not to the ground. I don't know if you have any sources or anything like that. Like, we're not that big. We're not Waj. We're not what's the other guy's name? I can't even remember.
Shams.
Yeah, Shams. No Shams bombs. No Waj bombs happening over here. We don't have any of that available to us, unfortunately. So, I mean, we could throw out trade ideas. We can play on NBA Trade Machine, just like everybody else does. Like,
we cannot.
Look, I made it work. Like,
right.
Some of the things people come up with on there are ridiculous.
This team plus 6 wins. This team minus 4 wins.
What can we get for Kyle Singler, right? Just kidding, Kyle. Not really.
Oh, Kyle.
Anyways. Oh, Kyle.
I mean, the dude's kind of living it up, though.
I mean,
doesn't even have to suit up.
Doesn't suit up very often. Chilling on the bench, making that 5-6 mil.
Cool, 5-6 mil. I heard he drives like a Nissan. Like from really? Someone who's seen him in town, they're saying that he
can't get a decent haircut. What is wrong with that?
Hey, I'm not hating too much because we're a little bit in a similar situation.
Maybe a little bit. That's fair.
I like to think.
You want to start off with Utah?
Better, yeah.
Okay. We got about 15 minutes. Welcome back, Thunder fans, to Thunder Things with the Thunder Guys. Thanks so much for joining us once again on YouTube Live, on the Crossover Radio app, for joining in on the conversation on Twitter at the Thunder Guys. We're just glad to talk. Happy to be here. Let's take a look at the forecast, the weekly forecast. Games coming up. We've got the Utah Jazz tonight. We've got the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn on Thursday. Saturday we play the Grizzlies in Memphis, and then on next Monday we host the Charlotte Hornets. And I'm sorry, I said something wrong there. We don't play Brooklyn in Brooklyn. We play Brooklyn in Mexico City.
In Mexico City, yeah.
Okay,
that's that 9 o'clock tip-off.
Yeah, 9 o'clock tip-off because let's get crazy in Mexico.
There might as well. Was it last season that the Spurs played there and the arena was filled with smoke and fog and
yeah, I think it was.
Right, that was weird. But anyways, hopefully there's no crazy more distractions than the fact that you're playing in Mexico City. Utah tonight. I think when you look at the 4 games this coming week, this is definitely going to be the toughest game. But it should be a win, in my opinion, and we need it.
Why do you think it should be a win? Because here's the thing. The Jazz, honest to goodness, last few games, they look like the best team in the league. And statistically, they are. I think that's kind of crazy to say that, but they're on a 6-game win streak. We need a win against them.
Yeah.
We got to get over 500. We got to get over that.
Well, here's why I'm saying that this should be a win is because I feel like everybody should feel this way, is that the Thunder are one of the most talented teams in the NBA, and there shouldn't be a whole lot of teams out there that are going to bring the same level of talent on a night in, night out basis. And yes, Rudy Gobert's back. Let's see who else. Rodney Hood has been playing excellent. I think he's their leading scorer.
Is he? I think he's out right now.
Is he?
I think he is. He's been their leading scorer so far this season, but
how long has he been out? I
think it's. I'm honestly not sure. I think it's only been a few games.
Okay.
I can't remember.
God, I haven't missed
I could be wrong on that. It seemed like he rolled his ankle or something fairly recently. I'm not entirely sure. Now, somebody that and I'm going to be honest, I don't know if this is basketball ignorance, but up until about a week ago, I had never even heard of Donovan Mitchell.
The rookie?
Rookie for Utah.
Yeah.
I've seen some people talking about him on social media, and so obviously we played them today, so last night I started looking over their stats, and I go look this guy up. He's been a beast, especially lately. So for the season, he's averaging almost 17 points a game. He's a 37% three-point shooter. But over the last 6 games during that win streak, he's averaging almost 22 points a game, shooting 49% from the field, 48% from 3, throw in 4.2 assists and like 3 rebounds. I mean,
that's outstanding for a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take that.
Yeah, I would take it right.
I would take that.
This game, especially with being a divisional game, the Thunder are 1-5 against teams in the Northwestern Division.
That's not good.
That's not good at all. Especially when we've been so prominent. Is that the word I'm looking for in that division over the years? I mean, how many times we've been right up there in contention for it?
Once or twice.
Right.
Twice have we not won the division? Something like that. It's not been very many. 2 or 3 times. I don't know.
I mean, and it would be huge going off. You're already on a 2-game win streak to get a win against Utah, and then you've got several below 500 teams coming up. You talked about this last week, is that we had an opportunity to kind of go on a run and really turn things around. And now that I'm looking at our upcoming schedule, I'm starting to. This could just be getting excited, like what we talked about, seeing good things from the Thunder. But I'm starting to really see where this team could turn things around.
Right. We've got some good opportunities coming up.
You're right. Anything else for Utah tonight?
I mean, I don't know if you saw this. They blew out the Wizards last night.
Right.
116-69. Granted, John Wall's out for Washington, but I mean that's unbelievable. This is going to be a defensive matchup. I wrote about this in our game preview. Offensively, these teams, both the Thunder and the Jazz, are in the bottom 10 for points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game.
Which still blows my mind that the Thunder are fall into that category.
Defensively, though, both teams are in the top 5, I think, for opponent points per game, opposing turnovers, something like that. I may just be making this up. I don't know.
You're just going with it.
It's close.
If you say it with enough confidence, people will believe you.
Exactly. It should be a defensive matchup, though. I'll be genuinely surprised if both teams break triple digits. I really feel like this could be a game in the 90s. On the same hand, I mean, Thunder back at home, we could get crazy. We could go for over 100 easily. And,
do you think Melo takes more than 10 shots tonight?
I think he might have to be completely honest. I feel like we look at the matchups, and I feel like we match up really well with Utah. You mentioned Rudy Gobert's back from injury. He was out for 10 games, almost an entire month. He played like 20 minutes last night, had 4 points, 10 rebounds, I think it was.
Right.
So nothing too impressive.
Yeah, but that's not really a fair take based off of 20 minutes. And
he is a good player.
Is he getting full minutes line, or is he still restricted?
I think he's still on a restriction. Okay. He's starting, but I'm not really sure what they're doing there. I know last night he was on a restriction, which they didn't really need him, so that worked out in their favor. But Steven Adams, he needs to continue doing what he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's looked good, and he can continue doing those things. And I would like to see him. I'd like to see him do work on the
get him going early. Yes. Feed him inside early. Brooklyn
on to Mexico.
I'm excited for that game, really mainly just because it's in Mexico City. I think it's going to be a fun, different feel to it.
Brooklyn's been an interesting team. You've had them in your bottom 5 a few times.
I have, in and out.
And I mean, 9-14, they're really not much worse than we are
yeah,
at 10-12.
Yeah.
So
I was actually thinking about that the other day when I was filling out my bottom 5.
I looked a little deeper into them, and I mean, last night they beat the Hawks by, 20 in Atlanta. Yeah, that's a pretty decent win. I mean, point-wise, Atlanta's not a good team.
Yeah.
They've won 3 of their last 5, which for a team like them, who a lot of people were questioning where in the bottom of the East they would be, that's not bad. D'Angelo Russell, he's really doing quite well there. This is his 3rd season, definitely his best season, point-wise, averaging almost 21 points, shooting 46% from the field. Only a 30% three-point shooter, but he's never really been known for that.
I'll say this. I think he could cause some problems because he is a type of point guard who can play with the style of Russell Westbrook. Not quite the same physicality, but as far as tempo, pace, I think a guard or a point guard like D'Angelo Russell will cause problems for Russell Westbrook. Not that it's gonna I'm not saying he's going to dominate Russell Westbrook, but I'm saying it's a lot different for him to play against D'Angelo Russell than to play against a guy like Ricky Rubio or something like that.
Well, he's got to live up to the challenge, though. I mean, like Ricky Rubio, he killed us last time.
Yeah.
When we played him earlier in the season.
Right.
Elfrid Payton, who's really a mediocre point guard, he really gave Russ the business. It's the hair.
It's the hair.
He gave Russ the business over and over again in Orlando. So Russ can't fall asleep on defense. He's really got to be up to that. Moving on to Memphis, they have been just straight up ugly. They won last night over Minnesota. They were on 11-game losing streak. They started off, I think it was like 5-1, and then they went on that 2-15, and then they won one last night. They've not looked good. Fired their coach. Mike Conley's been hurt. Say what?
I was just gonna say the 11-game losing streak.
What about it? That was Memphis. They'd lost 11 games in a row.
Right. Those where we've moved on to that.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
you're fine.
Bit of confusion here.
Sorry. So they don't look good right now at 8-15. We should be able to beat them just fine. Mike Conley is still out. They reevaluated him a few weeks ago. He's got a sore left heel, sore Achilles tendon. I think a few days ago they said probably another 2 or 3 weeks. So he likely will not be back for that, which means Russell Westbrook should be able to run free against. I honestly couldn't even tell you who their backup is right now.
I think it's the dude from Kentucky who was part of that 7 guys drafted out of Kentucky that year. What is his name? I don't know.
It escapes me. But whoever it is, Marc Gasol is kind of their main guy, and Steven Adams, if he's playing as well as he has been, then he should be fine. And that brings us to Charlotte. You've had them in your top 10 a couple different times.
Early
to watch.
Early.
Yeah, early. They started off strong, and I went back and looked at their record, and I mean, this is crazy. They are a super streaky team. They started off 5-3. Then they proceeded to go on a 6-game losing streak. Then they won 3 in a row. Then they lost 4 in a row, and then they won last night. So they're not like a jump around. They've been doing like a bunch of whatever it is they're doing at the same time.
I feel like Charlotte, especially coming off of last season where they had a better year than they had previously, to see them get off to that quick start is why I had them in my top 10. But then they dropped to the 3 to watch, and now I don't have them anywhere on the radar. It's going to be fun. It's always fun to see Kemba Walker play. Jeremy Lamb, that we were just debating whether or not we were going to talk about Jeremy Lamb today. I guess since we're talking about Charlotte, we could talk about him for a little bit.
We disagreed on his time here.
Yeah, I don't feel like he was given a fair shake. You feel like he was given the opportunities.
I felt that at times, and then I felt like he got some chances. When it came down to it, it was too little too late. I felt like he ended up in Scott Brooks' doghouse, and it was just like I don't even know who we traded him for. I can't remember. That had something to do with PJ3, right?
Right.
There was a trade.
And there's stuff like that. You don't even know what's going on in the locker room and what's happening. I forgot Dwight Howard was in Charlotte now.
He got traded from the Hawks.
Yeah.
And he's actually been pretty solid. I mean, 15 points and 12 rebounds.
That's very solid.
He's had some games where it's been like no points and a few rebounds. He's had, I think he had maybe a 20-20 game the other night. I don't even know. I kind of feel like he's at this point in his career where so many people don't like him that he's just like,
a lot of bridges.
Man, it's whatever, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just out here to hoop and kind of finish out my career. Which, I mean, this brings up an interesting topic that I've seen a lot in basketball conversation. Do you think Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer?
No.
You don't think so? After everything that he's done, Defensive Player of the Year so many times, Slam Dunk Champion.
I was about to say, I was about to throw that out there sarcastically.
No,
what do you do? The two basketball goals in that same time.
I don't know, man. I feel like he's done so much. I mean, he carried the Magic to the finals.
Yeah.
That was the year that it was supposed to be LeBron and Kobe, and Dwight said, "Hold up, don't forget about me."
Right.
And he took them to the finals. Now they didn't fare well, obviously, but he carried that team. It was him. He had Jameer Nelson as his point guard.
I mean, it's fair.
So I don't know. I think that he is the kind of guy that Steven Adams came in at the right time. Dwight Howard was kind of coming down. We wanted Steven Adams because to kind of take over for Kendrick Perkins. The reason we wanted Kendrick Perkins was to go head-to-head with a guy like Dwight Howard, and Perk always managed.
That was while he was in LA,
him.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And always managed him fairly well. And I mean, I feel like, I don't know, we match up well with the Hornets. That's another game that I'm looking at this next week, and tonight will definitely be the toughest game. We say this every week. We like to win them all.
Yeah. Maybe we should do like a reverse psychology here. We always pick them to win them all, or we pick the wrong ones.
I'm not picking 0-4 when we've got Brooklyn and Memphis on the schedule. But realistically, what should we be at? What would you be okay with? What do you think is realistic?
I would be okay with 3-1 in this situation.
I feel like that's fair.
That puts you above 500. I think anything else would honestly be a disappointment. But at the same time, I'm saying 3-1. I feel like it's very reasonable that they could win all 4 of these games.
I agree.
We'll be on a 6-game winning streak, and I don't know who we got coming after that. But that's what you were talking about earlier, leading up, kind of building momentum coming into Christmas at the end of, start the new year. This team, as much as we've been critical, which I think we need to be, I also feel like this team is on the brink of figuring it out. They're getting close to putting everything together.
Leading into Christmas, I'm looking at our schedule. Let me throw some games out here because we've got a few more minutes. It looks like. After Charlotte, we take on the Pacers in Indiana.
That'll be a tough game.
76ers in Philly. That could be interesting. Got the Knicks in New York.
Those will be 3 interesting games in a row, honestly.
Right. The Nuggets at home. The Jazz again at home. Hawks at home. Jazz in Salt Lake City, and then the Rockets. So
really, the only easy win I hear out of that was
the Hawks.
Yeah, Atlanta. All those games seem to be pretty
Denver's
tough.
kind of. I just don't know with them. They were doing well, but Paul Millsap is out. What's his name?
Have we already played in Indiana? We won by like 20. Indiana. But was that at home?
That was a home game. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like as long as Paul George doesn't. It's going to be in Indiana. It's going to be his, maybe his KD coming back to Oklahoma City cupcake moment. I don't know how he's going to be received. Hopefully it's not too terrible. He should expect the boos. I hope he does well.
Guys have been going off on their former teams. That's
I would like to see him do that.
I would too, especially after all the talk we've heard about Indiana winning that trade. Victor Oladipo is having a solid season.
He's playing really well. You got to give the guy props.
You can't take that away from it, but I still don't think they won the trade by any means.
Neither do I.
I guess we'll find out next week, huh?
Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for joining us. Thunder Things with the Thunder guys. I'm Zach. This is Craig. It's been a pleasure. We will see you guys next week, or you'll hear us next week, depending on whichever platform you are watching, listening to us on. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being with us. Join in on Twitter with the conversation. We'll be live tweeting the game we tip off in an hour. We'll have a game recap ready for you. We're posting all kinds of stuff. We're just writing away. Follow us at the Thunder Guys. Give us a like on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram as well. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Have a good week.